Hiring the very first employee. Oh my God, this can be the most difficult thing. When you are starting out, it's easy. At least in my case, it was quite easy. I'm an accountant by profession, so then I went on to start an accounting business. So it was easy for me to do the accounting work for clients, to do the tax work for clients, etc. But as time went on and time went on, I began to ask myself, at what point would I be ready to hire the very first person to come and help me within my business? And I think what really, I was quite blessed because of the opportunity that I got to hire my very first employee. And I'll talk about that later in this video. But I really just want to talk about the first hire because as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you become quite nervous, when it comes to that step of, am I really ready? Am I ready to hire the very first person? And how much can I afford to pay this next person? If I can afford to pay a lower amount, will they agree to come into and work with me in my business? And what if they really can't, they refuse or they reject me? There's all of those fears and all of those things that you just begin to question yourself and ask yourself, to say, am I ready? Is the business ready? And even if the person does come, can I afford it? Because financially, I think that's the biggest step that you can take in your business, especially in the very onset. So in my particular case, I was quite fortunate to come across a particular program which helps with recruitment of graduates. And I took that opportunity to hire my very first employee. So my very first employee was a sponsored graduate. And the aim of the program was that they wanted these graduates to gain experience, workplace experience. And what I had to provide in return was a letter of recommendation after a 1-year internship. So I took advantage of that opportunity. I brought in the graduate, did interviews to try and find the best candidate. I actually think that the program gave us like a short list of candidates that are pre-qualified to be on their program. So I looked through that list and then I worked through that list and then I chose the candidate that was best for our company. So financially, that sort of reduced the risk because the program would sponsor part of the stipend for the graduate and then I had to subsidize that. So financially, it was a lower risk for me. And I mean, it worked well because I had just started the business and I was just trying to get work, trying to go out there and get work. And this opportunity was then for me to get an assistant, someone who can assist me on a day-to-day basis. So that had its own challenges. I won't talk about that now. But ideally, if you want to start looking at bringing in the very first employee in your company, I think there's certain things that you must just make sure that you tick those boxes. All right. Number one, I think you need enough work in the business to be able to give to this person, because you can't bring in a person and then they just come and sit. All right. So you must have enough work as yourself, as the business owner, to say, I cannot handle the volume of work that I'm getting in this business. I need help. So that's number one, enough work for the person to do before you even think about hiring. Number two, you must be generating enough money to be able to afford to pay this person. And like in my case, maybe you can start thinking about a graduate, trade-offs like those wherein a graduate comes in to get experience, you can pay them a stipend, and then they gain experience, you gain a person who comes in to help you. But another thing to note about graduates is that, remember, they have not worked before, they don't have previous experience. So you would have to teach them, you would have to guide them and walk with them in the journey. So there's that particular part of the process. If your business is a bit more advanced and you cannot afford to get in a graduate and start teaching them, just prepare to maybe pay a little higher and get someone who's a bit more experienced, and that way you'll be able to at least get that hire in the building. Right? So number one, I spoke about enough work. Have enough work. Number two, make sure that you have enough money to pay them. So you don't want a situation where you're saying, come, we will get the work when you are here. No, make sure that you've got enough work in the company that at some point, maybe you're even telling customers, no, I can't help you now. So in other words, you've got a queue, you've got a good queue of clients waiting to be serviced and you can't get to them. That's very crucial, because that means you'll be able to give this person work and you'll be able to utilize them. Because if they come into the building and they're just sitting there, you're looking at each other, they will be eventually you will have to let them go because there's no work to do. If there's no work, there's no money to pay. And then if there's no money, then there's no profits in the business, then you can't pay salaries, and then eventually you're gonna clash, you're gonna fight, right? Those are the crucial things that I think you need to make sure that those are covered. Those are the critical things. And then maybe another one is to just make sure that before you bring this person in, at least you know what they are going to do. So what is their role? What is their responsibility, right? I spoke about having enough work and making sure that you've got the money, but what is the role? That is the first key role that you want them to do. Because in a small business, I know as business owners, we wear many hats. We wear the finance hat, we wear the IT hat, we wear the customer experience hat, we wear the sales, we wear all the hats. So be clear on the role that I want X. I want this person to come in and help with sales. I want this person to come in and do bookkeeping. I want this person to come in and do operations or whatever it is that your business does. Be clear on that, because if you're not clear on that, even your recruitment is going to fall apart. You won't know what to look for. So be clear on that. And I think one way you can approach that is to just identify what is the easiest task that I can give to this person, or what can I delegate in terms of my responsibilities as the business owner at the point where the business is. What can I delegate easily to a person that's coming in? Because you can't hand over everything and hand over the finances, hand over everything on day one, right? So you want to identify those tasks that they can happen with less of your involvement. Those are the ones that you want to hand off first. So maybe if it's administration, you want to get an administrator first, and then they take care of the admin. They remove the admin out of your plate, and then you focus on maybe the technical work, you focus on other work. Then after that particular admin is done, you've handed it over to the new person, maybe you want to start handing off maybe the sales. Now you're no longer you're no longer as involved in the sales process. You hand that over to them or to another person that you bring into the business. But the very first hire, oh my God, it's quite scary. I won't tell you, I'm telling you, it's so scary. I won't tell you how many times I had to just think to myself that, okay, it's gonna be fine. We will have enough resources to pay the employee. And I think this happens also not just on your first hire as a business person, because in my case, I had a graduate. It was an internship for like a 12 months. But really now when you have to move on to hire maybe a permanent employee, now you're thinking to yourself, oh, this is a big move because I need to be able to pay this person, right? It's a big commitment. And I think the things that I spoke about, you have enough work for the person to do. Make sure that the business is generating enough profit and enough sales for them to be able to get paid at the end of the month. Those are the things that you still have to check, even in those positions, to say, I'm hiring someone on a permanent basis. Is there enough work for them on a permanent basis, consistently, month to month, And can I generate enough revenues to be able to pay their salary? Because you want to have integrity. You don't want to hire people and then not pay them. That's not good. As a business person, you must have integrity and you must make sure that you pay people what you promise them. So it's very important to make sure that you've checked those boxes. Another thing that I did or that I do when I hire a person, I check the ROI, the return on investment, to see if I'm paying this person X, can they generate me more than what I pay them? And remember, hiring a person is not cheap. You need a laptop, you need electricity, you're paying rent for their desk and all of that. So the ROI is a key element of this whole thing, because if you are paying a person a certain amount and you cannot get a return on that investment, then you are losing money as a business person. So the ROI is quite crucial, and it's a metric that I look at very carefully to say, if I'm paying this person X, what is the return on investment? And let me tell you something. If the return on investment is not necessarily just financial, it could be that the role that you are hiring is not necessarily revenue generating. You are hiring a bookkeeper in your business. That bookkeeper might not necessarily be going to see clients to sell products and generate sales, right? But They help you keep your books. They help you make sure that you are able to see what is the profit, what is the loss. So there's value, there's return on the investment, right? And there's many other examples like those. So when I say return on investment, I'm not talking about only about can I make more than what I pay them. That's important, but especially for client facing roles and so on. But remember, there's back office. How do you measure? How do you measure in a back office role how the return would be in that sense? So you still need to have a consideration of the kind of role. It's not necessarily a role that is client facing. So I can't just measure how much I'm making from the role, but return on investment, that is a very crucial one. And I mean, I'll leave it there. Please do share with me in the comments. How hard was it for you to hire the very first employee? How hard was it? And what are some of the things that you considered? I've shared with you what I've considered in my own experience. Please make sure that you share with me what your considerations are. And I look forward to hearing from you guys. See you in the next video.